where's the best place to start when rebuilding after a season of a lot of transition? Like maybe there's there's ebbs and flows and there's transition going on all the time, but there are spikes of transition where it's like, okay, now the dust is settled. Where's a good place to start kind of rebuilding when some of that's happened?
I think that's a very difficult question. We need to fine tune that question. Bring it down a little more detail.
Yeah. Okay. So like maybe there's been a lot of team turnover and you've got new people in positions of leadership. And so it feels like a brand new team in some senses. What are some tools that are effective at kind of like, what do we need to focus on right now? Like we're starting kind of not from scratch because we have an existing thing. We've got some fresh people on the bus, some fresh faces in leadership, maybe some new ideas around the table. What's a good place to kind of start taking steps to build back?
The first answer that came to my brain was back to the basics, right? Mm-hmm. Like you examine all the protocols and the basic things. Who was it? The coach that said, "Hey, everybody, this is a football." It's kind of like maybe it's going back to just the original values, the culture statements, and revisiting those things after the dust settled. It's a good time again to revisit. That was the first thing that came to my mind.
But the first thing that came to my mind is just communication, over communicate. Yeah. All those things, the basics, the fundamentals, the principles, what are we trying to accomplish? I think I think that's probably what I've noticed with our team is, and we're in some, pretty good transition right now, is that we have to, it's that kind of all hands on deck sort of mentality that people are probably going to be stretched across an area where they don't necessarily have ownership of, but they're going to have to lean in for a season to provide some understanding, culture, and seniority into a situation where there's new.
Yep.
So, I'm pulling in the thoroughbreds, the people that have been with you for a while that know how to run, and say, get ready. We're going to have to lean in for this next season and get the new team, ready for the next season. I feel like there's quite a few of those, like principles that I think when it comes to so like when we know there's a change that needs to be made, I think there's a couple of things that, like, number one, we're working through every detail of the ramifications of the change. Yeah. Like I would encourage any leader, before you pull the trigger, you've thought everything out.
Yep.
Like in my mind, I just go down. I'm going down this path, thinking if we do it this way, and I go all the way to the end of what I think could happen. Then I come back. Then I go down this path all the way to the end of what I think could happen. Then I'll go down, just like and try to get a sense of what I feel like the Lord's telling us to do. So, but I'm looking at every detail of the change. Then I'm going to try to, I'm trying to think about the timing of when is the right time to do this. We have this coming up. We have that coming up. Then this, should we do it right after this or right before? Yeah. Or, what's the ebb and flow of the calendar and and then I'm going to have somebody you could list these things out, Parker, because you've been through a million of these. We're going to put together a communication plan.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
First of all, what are we saying?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We got to have the elevator pitch, right? You need to have 3 or 4 sentences. If it's a person that's transitioning, if it's a ministry that's transitioning, you have 3 or 4 sentences.
Right.
This is the decision we made, and we made it because of this. And we're all saying, we've agreed on it, and we're all saying the same thing. And then number 4, we just execute. And I think some people don't get to 4. So number 1 is work through every detail. Number 2 is plan the timing. 3 is communicate clearly, and 4 is execute. Some people don't ever get to 4 because they're either afraid or they haven't worked through 1, 2, and 3 effectively. So,
it's good.
Just a couple of thoughts about